Certainly, it's a very delightful experience, a very nostalgic experience for me to come back to the campus after 13 years. Though I live just tracks after this, still I never had an opportunity to come here, meet my old friends, and there's so many faces which are very familiar to me. And I do acknowledge the work what Loyola has done to me. I am what I am today because of Loyola. It is that foundation what I got, be it in the physics department where I studied or where I worked, the fathers, the teachers who were around me, a lot of learnings I had, which actually contributed for my growth. So Christ, it was easy for them to just build upon the foundation what Loyola has already put in very firmly. And I am very indebted and grateful to this campus because it was like a home for me, and I could hear whatever program which goes on in Bedroom Hall, especially the cultural programs right from my house. I can hear that. Those were the days, and I used to walk here and there. It was such a privilege for me to work here and come back to this institution, and I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me, and thank you, sir, for giving nice words about me. I'm not very sure whether I'm worthy of those words, but I'm so delighted to be back. And the topic what I'm going to talk about is in engaging and assessing students by leveraging technology. You know, even for me, as a student, I had experienced some of the greatest professors of Loyola. I remember Professor Baimiraj, Professor Wilson. You know, they were people who had so much of passion and under whom I learned. And when I became a teacher, and the first thing which came to my mind was I should imitate them. I should be like them. And I'm sure that most of you would agree with me that when you came into the teaching job, some of the lecturers, the teachers, you wanted to imitate because they are the people who became a role model for probably for teaching and so on and so forth. It is good. It's very nice, and that's how I began. So those days when we were sitting there observing the teachers from one side, their style and passion in which the methodology they delivered and the content what they were delivering. And I went to the classroom. It was the same reproduction. I wanted to do something like that. But the problem is things have changed. Even I did not realize that things have changed very drastically from what I was as a student and now what the classroom is all about. This is a very nice saying I picked up. If we teach today's students as we thought yesterday, and then we rob them of tomorrow. Now we have to understand that, we have to acknowledge that. If we are still fixed in the way, the methodology, the techniques, what we used, how we were teaching a couple of years ago, to the next generation, it means it cannot happen. The things have drastically changed, and that's exactly the point, crossroads where you and I are in. This image is a very disturbing image, so don't get offended. But if this is a very common sight, now who is it wrong? Is the students wrong there? Or is the teacher wrong? I don't think. I don't say the teacher is wrong. The teacher is very passionate, isn't it? She has almost used the complete board and she's teaching so passionately she's teaching. But what's happening to the students? Completely disconnected. You cannot find fault. The problem is the teacher is stuck to the old methodology. But the next generation is completely different. Now that's exactly what I'm going to talk about the next 35 minutes. How things have changed and what is that we could do. And I'm sure that I am a very, very small person compared to the vast ocean of experienced teachers sitting here. But let me try and put few things, what I have learned in the last couple of years, trying to experiment with my own students, in my own setup, how things have drastically changed. The attention span you take, just one little fact. When I was a student here or when I started teaching, somebody in this hall said, the maximum attention span for a student is only 45 minutes. And that's how I was thinking. Until recently, I came across a study where it is only 12 minutes. Which means every 12 minutes, we are losing this contact. Right? So how am I going to retain? Now it's becoming a challenge. I cannot simply go on and on and on for 55 minutes non-stop. I'm very good at it. You ask me to talk for 55 minutes without any break, I can do. But the problem is the attention span of the students who are listening to you is only 12 minutes. So how do I engage? Now that is a real problem, which means after all the effort what we are putting in, after all the passion and dedication what we are showing, still there is a lot of gap between the digital society and us who are digital immigrants. That is a gap which we need to learn to fill up. And what I have understood is we got to become little comfortable being uncomfortable, which means the paradigm shift which is going on, the methodology change which is changing needs to be accommodated. We need to learn to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Something is changing, and that uncomfortable, which is not going to be very pleasant change for us, but we got to change. Now, in the year 2005, when I joined Christ, this was the first book given to me, and I think by now you will all understand that was an attendance register. And they said that you need to write because in Loyola, I remember there was a book, attendance book, which I used to write. But there the practice was, this register was given to me with a carbon sheet, white sheet and the pink sheet. And they said you have to take attendance. The attender will come and collect the white sheet, tear it and give. And when I wrote the first slip, you know what I remembered? This sight is very familiar only in the Mofassil bus conductor. Because he was holding a book, something similar to that. And whenever you wanted a ticket, he wrote the ticket in hand, tore the paper and gave it to you, and he had a record with the carbon sheet. It exactly looked the same. And I said, am I a teacher who has come to teach, or a conductor? Not to undermine the job of a conductor, but the role I was playing, which actually pushed me, which was making me uncomfortable, right? So what I did is, I wanted to try and see whether I could send an SMS to register the attendance. So I worked hard. Obviously, nobody was in support of me because I was pretty new, and worked hard day and night. I wrote programs. Everything was successful. Finally, I said, I want to test this program. Okay, and I asked my class of MCA, 60 students, and said, my dear friends, I want to test a project which I have done. Please send an SMS for this number with this number. They all sent. I waited, and I got only 6 SMS out of 60. I didn't believe what was happening. I scratched my head and found out that BSNL supports only 6 SMS per minute. A big failure for me. After all the hard work I did, my idea became a flop. But you know what happened? That gave birth to an app, because that was the time when apps were coming up, mobile apps were coming up. So I proposed a solution for Christ that we will have an app, an attendance app, and it gave birth to an attendance app. We started using this app, and of course, as usual, they were not welcomed initially, but very slowly teachers understood what is the advantage of this. What is the advantage? The class list is updated there. You just have to select the class, and since the timetable is already attached to the system, when you get into the class, it already knows that this is the class you are going to take. Open the app, sign in, you will get the class. Select it, and the name list will just appear. And the good part of it, whenever you complete, it will always say how many classes you finish, because that's always a challenge for us. At the end of the day, we need to complete 60 hours, right? So it keeps on reminding. So this app, when it came, though there was a failure, right? But because of that uncomfortableness I had, I kept on trying, and eventually we landed up into something which was worthwhile. Now that journey did not stop there. Some years back, we had a big problem with the admissions, because every time Christ wants to conduct an admission, their paper was given, and two interviewers were there to fill in those columns, and somebody in the office has to sit and type, which means after the interviews were over, they started typing. Okay? And what happened? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night, the work was not over. And after all the hard work, the director of admission says, this data is not right. What you have done is wrong. There were a lot of errors. Whether it was willful or whether it was accidental, errors were there. There were a lot of clouds of suspicion saying somebody is changing the data when they are trying to type. So many things. And then I suggested, even in Anjapur Hotel, they have a tab. And if you go and order, he takes it in the tab. Why can't we have an app for this? Of course, the punishment was I became a coordinator for admissions. That's a different story. And so I was given the job, and I started working out on this app. And of course, there was a lot of initial investment because we had to buy the tab, and then we have to start working. Parallelly, we could conduct interviews in Delhi, Kolkata, Jaipur, as well as in Bangalore. 4 places simultaneously, and just like that, the results were started coming in. And what was the advantage? 5 o'clock, everybody leaves the office. And they were very extremely happy, and I was also happy. that uncomfortableness, right? Which I got used to, that uncomfortableness, kept on pushing to find out what else can be do. Now, you have to understand that today's teacher is not just teaching, right? There is a load of administrative tasks. NAC comes, UGC comes, audit, internal audit, external audit. So many times data is being asked again and again and again. Sometimes we are fed up with giving of data, right? And even in Christ, I had this problem. Every year they wanted a photograph of mine. I said, my face has not changed since last year. Why do you want the photograph again and again? Because nothing was in the system, right? So when we started doing all these things, slowly we invested a lot of money and a lot of time on ERP products, and we started developing, because we are the rightful owners. So I found out that I was able to reduce the workload of the teacher in terms of the clerical job, what was expected, which means eventually that time they were able to concentrate on their teaching, on research. So that was the advantage. So we have to see, how do we reduce? Let me give you one more example. We introduced a system called Work Done Diary. And we had to write every hour saying, first hour I took this class, and second hour this activity, so many, for 40 hours I need to fill up. The problem was, it is a book, and I am supposed to submit to the head of the department on Saturday morning, and only Friday night I will remember that I have to write. And that too when I am at home, and the book is at the college. So Saturday morning I have to come, scribble something and submit, and that will go for 1 day break, and if it goes for the dean, it is at least a week before it comes back. Right? The system was not catering to what it was supposed to do. What did we do? Simply changed it into online. And since the attendance is online, which means for 24 hours guaranteed, it will write the work done diary automatically. I reduced. Okay? So the call, what I'm trying to do is, first we need to check how we could reduce, if at all there are any clerical burdens, administrative tasks, using technology, reduce it so that there is a lot more time by which you can come. Because that's a very pathetic stage, that today's teachers are burdened with both, right? And eventually this is more pressurizing, and every now and then we have audit. So this takes a more prominent place, and the teaching takes a second seating. So that has to first change with the help of technology. So the other thing which actually burdens me is this. If you look around the evil world, I will call that as an evil world, they exploit technology. Do you know how much of technology they use? They decipher secret messages in pictures, even much before what we could think about. They are exploiting technology. That's not a lesser word I can use. Exploiting technology. But what about the noble profession like us? How many of us have really ventured into technology? How many of us are even bold enough to touch technology? We feel that technology is something very holy, something which is not belonging to me. I am a teacher. I am supposed to teach like this. That's exactly what I'm trying to do again and again. But we are failing to understand that today's generation has changed, and technology adapting is very, very important. This is possible the next generation I could think about. Or I do not know whether this generation is already here. Right? And how many of us have grandchildren who says, no, Tata, it is not like this. My daughter teaches my father. And I don't have patience to teach my father. So I'll tell my daughter, because she's the only one to whom my father will listen. Right? She's saying, no, Daddy, it is not like this. How many of us have really used our phone, your smartphone? We use it to call the device. Is that only for calling? No. There is so much of computation possibility. So much of technology is packed. Do you know, and just a beginner smartphone has minimum 12 sensors. Its capability. It's too much of power in our hand, and we always do not exploit it. But there is some other world which is constantly exploiting it, and that's where I want the teachers to get change. You know, it seems there was a mother who was sitting on a couch, and this first son came and asked a very difficult question to the mother. Mummy, was I born or downloaded? Can you find fault with them? No, vocabulary has changed. Your children knows upload and download much better than any other word. Right? Because that is digital native. They know technology. They are already into technology. And we are trying to find means of understanding this technology. There was a student, probably a math student, and this fellow failed miserably in his exam. And the teacher was a very passionate teacher, so he caught him and yelled at him, bashed him, and finally he felt very sorry for the student also. So he said, my son, I'm sorry, I had to scold you because you didn't do properly in your exam. The student ran, brought a piece of paper, crumbled like this, and showed to the teacher and said, this is what you have done to my spirit. Any amount of your sorry, do you think this paper is going to become straight? If somebody walks into your room and says that, what will you do? The teacher very politely put his hand around him and said, no, you have mistaken me. You're like my scooter. Only when I kick you twice, it will start. Now, what I meant to make it as a joke, but what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of gap, right? It seems the students are somehow, they are little above us. There were times in Gurukulam days when the teacher was sitting high and the students were low, trying to listen to every word what the Guru is saying. But today, things have changed. I always tell my colleagues at computer science department, today's student, they don't come to learn anything from us. Do you know that? They don't come to learn anything from us. They just come here to know whether I know anything in the subject. That's my conviction. Why? You have everything in their fingertips. Thanks to Geo, everything is free. Internet is in their palm, in their fingertips. So they are abreast with the knowledge. Now just imagine, when you walk into the classroom, what does a student think about you? We all talk about impression, right? And what does a student think about you? Is he talking, oh, here comes a person who is obsolete? Or here is a person who is very smart and updated with information? That's because we are little skeptical whether we need to touch the technology, whether we need to go near that. We do not know what's happening. We are stuck in some place and thinking that we are doing a passionate job. I am not undermining your passion. I am not undermining your dedication. It is absolutely fine, but things around you has changed and we need to change along with it. Look at the world around us. We have smart watches. The watches talk about your BP, whether you're angry, whether you're cool. There are lighting systems will change according to your mood. Your mobile phone has the capability to play a song according to your mood. Whether you're happy or sad, it is able to sense. Look at the amount of people, look at the amount of sensors which are watching at you. Today we talk about smart TV. There were times when we had to fight for the remote. There were a lot of fights searching for the remote. I want a channel. Today you don't have to do that. You just have to talk to the TV. You say this channel and it records. It changes. Smart TVs have come. Smart classrooms. Things have changed. Thanks to Educom. Even in school they have flooded with this kind of systems. Gesture controls. Even you don't even have to touch. You have to speak or simply wave your hand. Your cell phone says, you say cheese, it takes a picture of you. You say smile, it takes a picture of you. I hope you might have seen the Panasonic phone advertisement. You just have to wink your eyes. Even by accident, if you wink, it will take a photo of you. See, the gesture controls, which means there's every word, everything we talk about, or there is the word smart coming all around, right? Smart classrooms, smart devices. The next we are talking about Internet of Things. In a nutshell, somebody said like this: when you put a shirt into the washing machine, the IoT, the Internet of Things will decide, this fellow has been wearing this shirt for so many days, so this much of temperature, this much of soap is required. So the machine takes the charge of putting how much water temperature and soap. That is the world what we are migrating to. It's already here. It's not something very distant. You and I are going to witness that quickly. Your fridge will talk to the vendor and say, this fellow has not ordered these things. This is below the level. Please send. Things have changed. That is the amount of technology what we are seeing these days. So we got to do something and become smart teachers. Everything around is smart. But do we really have smart teachers? Smartness is not the way we walk. Smartness is how we are getting information. How do we disseminate information? How do we assimilate information? How are we generating information? Am I still stuck with the old pedagogy and methodology, or I have changed completely? And my dear friends, this evening I want to say that we got to become a little more smart by adopting technology. We are doing a good job, but it will become better when we try to use technology. It means you have to lessen teaching in your classes and increase learning. There have to be space for children to learn, students to learn. There were times when the teacher is good if he is able to take non-stop for 55 minutes. Today it is no more. We need to see how the students are learning in the classroom. We cannot be satisfied with only teaching. Only delivery is not more important. It is how much they start learning. Let me ask you a question. How many of you recognize these icons and how many of them you recognize? Maybe one or two you can spell out. Any of these icons do you recognize? This TV is open. Yeah, here and there I can hear some murmur. Will you be surprised if I say all these are related to teaching? In some way they are connected to teaching. See, we do not even know what icons are there. 21st century literacy, the definition of them has changed. Gone are the times when somebody know how to write, they were called literate. No more. We need to talk about computer literacy, information literacy, technology literacy, how much we know. Do you know that even searching in Google has become an art? Because you will never get the right thing searched, unless otherwise we know how to search. Digital, visual. So all these areas, a teacher has to become literate. Only then we can call ourselves literacy, and that is the parallel things I have given. When you possess this literacy, what is your expected solution, information, collaboration? These are the words which we keep talking about in the teaching fraternity again and again. And for achieving that, we need to do all these things. What is the need of the hour? Technology assisted teaching and technology enabled learning. Both we need to have. We need to have technology for both ends. The good news is the teacher will never be replaced. The teacher is teacher. If you have had a chance of looking at the McKinsey report, he gives a list of things which is going to be automated. And the least thing which can be automated is a teaching job. A teacher can never ever be replaced, but a teacher needs technology assistance to make it better. We are in the process of making a better world, and we need technology support to do that. And students also need this technology. They are right into the technology. My dear friends, if we are not promoting the right technology, they are going to misuse the technology. And I feel that I am one of the person who is to be blamed if technology is being misused by students these days. I am not guiding them. I have a guilt that I have not done my job. So you and I have to learn technology and start using so that students will be doing it correctly. Students are ready to learn and teacher empowered to teach. This is what is required. A student is ready to learn provided you and I are empowered with the technology. We need to invest a little more in technology. Thankfully today technology have reduced. The price for technology is very less. Internet is easily accessible. I still remember when I was in the computer lab, which was right in this block, the first floor. That was the first computer lab we had set. And one student from States, he brought 1 MB RAM. Today, nobody will know what is 1 MB at all. And we were all looking at it like this, as if something smuggled. And he was also showing it very preciously. This is 1 MB RAM, because the maximum hard disk was only 20 MB. That was the time. And look at the technology, how it has changed. So that is a rapid thing which is happening, and we got to adopt it. Active learning to interactive learning has to be there. It is not just active listening. We need to have interactive learning. Improved classroom transactions. These are things which we need to start thinking and see how we could do that with the help of technology so that students are ultimately benefited. Did you all think that Wi-Fi will be available in auto? Did we ever imagine that? Did we ever think that Ola app, the auto driver, will be able to use it? How fast that technology was adopted. Thanks to demonetization, this is no more uncommon. A street vendor is talking about Paytm, which means he needs to be aware of QR code. Isn't it? See the way and speed at which people have adopted technology. Now let me ask you that question. What about teachers? How much of technology have we adopted and explored to see it is very useful to the students? Now most of you would have played Angry Birds. Have you all played? Can I have your hands raised? If somebody has not played Angry Birds game? Anyone who has not played? Okay, even if you're shy, it's not a problem. Tonight you go download and play, it's free. Okay, don't get addicted, but just spend some time playing this Angry Bird. But do you know that somebody was able to develop so many questions out of Angry Bird? And Sagayam sir will be able to say that I are all physics and I studied under him. They were all physics questions, simple, projectile. A beautiful game we used to play when I was a kid is a gorilla game. I wish I had a chance to show you all, made you all gorillas and throw bananas at each other. That's a game, very wonderful game. You need to only talk about the velocity and angle at which you need to throw a banana so that it will fall on the other gorilla's head, in spite of the air resistance. You see, small game which was bringing so much of learning. That's where I am attending, right? So how much we could, a game and a question. Nobody can really imagine that so much of questions could come out of that. Now, unless otherwise we have played, we ourselves will not be able to do. In Tamil, there is one beautiful saying, isn't it? Not saying, proverb, Chattila irundha nagapaila varum. Isn't it? Am I right? Unless otherwise we know, how will you scoop out that knowledge out of us to deliver to the students? That is the challenge I am putting to you this evening. Now, what happened at Christ University? I just wanted to briefly spend some time talking about what we did at Christ University. Now, we started first with Coursera, and I'm sure that most of you are aware of this Coursera and edX program. So, a lot of MOOC courses, we encourage the students, and sometimes we had to force the teachers, teachers, we had to force them also to do some program. The intention was, when they did, they will understand how this digital can be used to leverage learning. That was our motive. So we started putting a lot of pressure on teachers to go through, take a course, a very simple course on English they did, and go through the entire module to get a brief understanding of how this MOOC courses work. Now, parallelly, we were trying to set up the Moodle, and I'm sure that most of you also know Moodle, that's a learning management system. That was also parallelly, we were trying to set it up and then try to educate the teachers on how do we use this Moodle software also. So they were trying to experience Coursera, the digital learning, how the courses, MOOC courses work on one side, and the other side, they were trying to experiment and see how the LMS system worked. We had rounds and rounds of training on both Moodle as well as Google Classroom. And then on one side, we were also building our own ERP. Though this was a bought ERP from a vendor, then we had a tie-up with them. We said that we are the experts in domain, so we will tell you what exactly we want. So we were trying to show these are the areas we want to computerize so that the administrative task will come down. So one, we were trying to work on how to reduce the administrative task. The other side, we were asking the teachers to experience this digital program. How do teachers do the MOOC courses? And the third place, how do we use an LMS software? So all trainings were going on. And we had taken the G Suite. Now, you might be knowing that G Suite is free for educational institutions. So we were also conducting programs, which means in a particular year, all our FDPs were focused only on these things. And slowly, step by step, we started training the teachers. What did we do with Moodle? We had conducted online exams, and still we are conducting online exams. We had said all CAA has to be uploaded only in Moodle, which means evaluation. We introduced a rubric for them, and that was also part of the Moodle. And we also encourage teachers to give feedback after that evaluation. And Moodle also has the ability to do a plagiarism check. So the idea of making your document free of plagiarism we were trying to inculcate in the students' mind also. So the teachers were experiencing all these things, and then at one stage we started taking videos of the teacher's lecture. Now for that, we had something called as Center for Concept Design. The idea of Center for Concept Design is we invested in a studio where the teachers will come and make short courses. And the course duration will be about 5 minutes, that's all, a small package. And of course, we had a lot of activity, a lot of training to make sure that that content is right, because once it is recorded and in air, anybody can find fault with your system. So we had mechanism to make sure that the content is right and it is rightly delivered. We had sessions of how to face the camera and do a lot of rehearsal before they shot. So the teachers were actually teaching with no audience, just in front of the camera. They had written all the script and they prepared these small modules of how did they prepare? With the learning from the MOOC, they adopted and they started doing their own small courses. And that, we asked them to upload it in Moodle. Now the students were able to see the video lectures, and in the classroom, the teacher would play the Moodle, play the video, substantiate with her own or his own notes on that, and then they would also available in the Moodle for further clarification. So a whole lot of this activity promoted the digital content at Christ University. And another thing what we had done is the self-paced and self-learning modules we created. We had something called as the HED, Holistic Education Programs. So there we had half a session of lectures and half of video. So that was also prepared by the individual teachers and it was uploaded into Moodle, and the student has to study the whole lot, which means he has to attend the lecture and he also has to take the video, and there were tests included in Moodle for checking whether the student has observed the video, and finally the final exam also was conducted through Moodle if possible, or if it requires a written exam, we had the paper-based method. So there were two important programs for which the Moodle and the digital learning was used. One is the HED and of course the regular certificate programs. Now we are trying to create few videos for the regular courses also. But all said and done, the maximum hours they can is only 15 hours, right? Which means 45 hours it has to be a contact class, teacher has to teach, but 15 hours he can or she can use her videos to deliver the lecture, and not without the presence of the teacher should be present. And we had a tie-up with the SAP, and they also came out with some of these programs with MOOC, and we were able to tie up with them, and the students were constantly learning. And then another center we established, which is called the Digital Innovation Center, where students were encouraged to take up projects along with a teacher guide. Now here we collaborated with a few teachers and the research department. The model was like this. There were so many people who were doing research, maybe the social sciences or the humanities, they were doing research, but most of them, they did not take it to a software level if there is a provision. So the computer science faculty and the computer science students, they had a tie-up with these research scholars who were already doing some work. Maybe they would develop a tool or they need a tool in order to do their research work. And then they were programming on one side, developing softwares for this PhD work for that research work to go on. And what was the learning? From the computer science point of view, they were learning real-time programming and developing softwares which were really implemented. From the research, they were also making sure that their tools or whatever it is, they were migrating to a level of software implementation. So we had these kind of learnings instituted through the concept design and digital innovation centers. Now this is just few screenshots I thought I should show you about. They were just ordinary people and not a very high, not trained people, just few lessons we had given, and they came out with their own sessions. Now they were not artists, by the way, they're all just teachers. And in fact, the middle picture is Father Joseph, who was a mathematics student of Loyola itself, and his sister also studied in computer science. So they were just ordinary people, but they took it up. But you see the actions, we were astonished whether somebody could act so much in front of the camera. We had a lot of apprehensions whether our teachers will come to that level. But we were completely surprised at the speed at which they were able to adopt technology and try to use all these things in the classroom. Now today, our classrooms have a lot of videos, a lot of MCQs, Moodle account, everything is being packed into a course pack. We had even classes of Bharatanatyam, by the performing arts teachers, and they had also brought out some videos. So they were all converted into a digital library, and it is also available in the library, where the students are free to access it at any point of time. Recently, I had done a workshop, similar workshop for the Bishop Heber College, and there also it was very, very astonishing, the speed at which they were able to adopt. I had just half a day of how to go about giving them a little bit of training, and the next half a day we had a session of making the teachers come out with their own video of just 1 or 2 minutes. Amazing results were there, which means people are talented, teachers are talented. The only thing is they need to see the right spark, and they will be able to adopt technology. Now, I'm going to quickly do some kind of a practical exercise before I could wrap. How many of you have a smartphone with the internet connection? I think most of you would be having. Will you be able to switch on your mobile data and open a browser, please? I'm sorry if I'm making you uncomfortable, but get used to that. Okay? So, if you're already in the browser, please go to menti.com. You got it? It's just menti.com. Have you all gone? Okay, now it's asking for code, right? Now you can see the code on the screen. It is 214896. Please type the code. Yeah, it's there on this 214896. Yeah, submit. You got it? Yeah. So there's one person who has signed in. That's me. I don't see anybody else signed in. Have you all submitted, please? Okay. Now I've asked for 3 words from this conference. Only 3 participants have given me the response. 3 words which you think, which you have learned from this conference. What do you see on the screen? Yeah? You see all the words coming up? These are all responses from there. 19, 21, 22 people. And then wait, sir. There are still people who are adopting technology. What we are doing right now is a word cloud. Okay? Now see the response. I am able to get so many words which people have learned in the conference. And one thing which is coming up, which means excellence seems to be the word which most of you agree. Right? So I'm able to get a consensus of seeing whether what is that which you have been learning right from morning. Isn't it nice? Okay, thank you very much. There was 54 responses. And this is called as Mentimeter.com. Okay, I'm sorry. It is Mentimeter.com. It's a free source. There are paid versions also, but for educators, I think it is a few questions you can take. Just imagine asking your students for once, okay, some lecture you're giving and asking them to say, what are the words you have understood? What are the concepts you have learned? And students are typing all these things. One, you're happy that whatever you have delivered has reached. Second, the students are getting interactive. They are interacting with you. They are giving your feedback, a live feedback. What are the things they have learned?